Japan is on a lot of bucket lists. I know it's been on our bucket list for goodness knows how long. And sometimes in life, timing and things happening in your life just all come together in such a way that you say, grab the opportunity. And with us, that's what triggered it. We went off to Japan because everything that we own is literally and figuratively in storage. So we packed a bag, left everything else behind us with no tour guide, no group, and we thought, right, let's go and do this ourselves. We knew there was not much English there. We knew it was going to be a land that's very, very different to a Westerner. What we had no idea about was just how magical, how mystical, how extraordinary, how colorful, how full of nuances Japan turned out to be, and how quirky and how filled with humor. That was a big surprise. So looking back, Japan was extraordinary, but so much to look back on and reflect. As a Westerner traveling through Japan, the best thing are these trains. They run like clockwork. You can absolutely depend on them. The Shinkansens are not only efficient, but they're beautiful. I couldn't stop taking pictures of all the noses. And then one day when a Hello Kitty train pulled in, well, I couldn't believe my eyes. So as long as you remember the golden rule is not to speak on the trains, you'll be fine. We're trying to travel light. We're sort of succeeding. Because we were jumping on and off trains, we really tried hard to travel light, but Vili kept quipping that we weren't so much as backpacking as bag dragging. I know we're all used to vending machines, but in Japan, they're literally everywhere. The thing about being a foreigner in Japan is that you need to remember exactly that. You are a foreigner in Japan. We knew there wasn't much English. I was a bit surprised actually at how little English is spoken in Japan. But you don't need to worry about it because thanks to being modern technology era, you've got this. And we found that using our phone just was the ticket for being able to communicate and not get lost. But being a foreigner in Japan definitely means following their rules and doing so with huge respect. If you do that, use your Google Translator, no problem at all. If you're really going to experience Japan, you've got to get your head around sleeping on the floor. And it's a nice experience. And if you stay in a hotel, they actually magically bring the futons in at night and then disappear them again in the morning. But you've got to do it. It's kind of part of being in Japan. No, that isn't real food, but just to make it easier for their foreign tourists, they put these displays on show in the window so you can point and order. As a foreigner in Japan, you're definitely going to have to get your head around the breakfast because they kind of don't eat Western style. And as Vili kept quipping, not a Wheat Bix in sight. Whenever you travel through a foreign country, there's always those big moments, the big hits, the big buildings, the big museums, the big things that you have to go and see. And there were plenty of those in Japan, and we made sure that we did all of them. But we were lucky enough to be able to go and see the more nuanced things, the more experiences that come from being in amongst the smaller towns and amongst the people than perhaps you would on a tour group. Having said that, where were the big moments and where did we leave our heart? Vili and I were talking about this the other day, and both of us agree it has to be Kyoto. Kyoto used to be the capital of Japan way back in history, and perhaps as a result, or maybe just because of the way it's built, it is a proper blend of the old and the new. So you get these really old kind of historic buildings, and you get this very modern feeling as well. And of course, there's the kimonos. There are more kimonos, I think, in Kyoto than anywhere else in the whole of Japan. And the Shinto temples, there's something like 160,000 of these things everywhere, and dozens of things to see of that nature. And it's wonderful, every part of it. The other part of Japan that is a definite must-see, there are about 90,000 Shinto temples around Japan. And every one of them has got at least one torii gate. So wherever you go, you'll see them. But the best for me was definitely that great big floating one in Miyajima. It was absolutely remarkable. But if you like torii gates, there's a lot of torii gates to like over in Japan. One of my big moments was definitely this, the 2,000-year-old floats being carried through Takayama for the Autumn Festival. Brilliant. If you have the time, you've got to go to an onsen, but we decided to go big. We went to the oldest hotel in the entire planet, Nishiyama Onsen Keion-kun. It's been open since 700 and something, 55 generations later. Can you believe it? As a Westerner in Japan, you are immediately struck with just how deeply different the culture is. There's the obvious things, like Japanese people obviously don't look like Westerners. And I tell you what else, they don't dress like Westerners either. It's the first time in my entire traveling life when I've actually been feeling really quite scruffy wearing denim jeans, because generally Japanese people dress beautifully, no matter where you go. But there's deeper things too. It's a society that absolutely works because everybody follows the law, unlike some of what we witness here in South Africa. So they don't just go randomly over roads and traffic lights and crossing, and traffic behaves itself. But you've also got things like on the train. You are not supposed to just speak quietly on the trains of Japan. You don't speak on the trains of Japan. You respect the silence. It took us a while to get used to that one. And then you've got this extreme contradiction, almost like a balance, I suppose, because as disciplined as they are, when it comes to playing, never seen anything like it in Japan. You've got these gashapon machines everywhere. You've got these karaoke bars. You've got extreme music going on and great deal of noise. It's absolutely crazy. But the traffic lights is what got me, is the fact that they would wait. In this country, you see the gap, you take it. Not in Japan. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter whether there is a car in sight. You stand by the side of the road and you wait for the green man. See? Green man can walk.
Rules here are very strict. The queue's waiting.
We didn't always get it right, I must say, when it comes to working out the culture of Japan, but mainly we just sat back and appreciated it. The ability to queue, to wait, clean roads, the way everybody looked, the kimonos. I just couldn't stop taking photographs of the kimonos. But it is such a balance of noise and color and complete tranquility. went to Japan, everybody kept telling us how expensive it was to eat out. Well, we've discovered it actually isn't, particularly if you eat where Japanese people eat as opposed to going into the hotels. The food is amazing everywhere we went. Lovely if you like seafood, which I do. There was plenty to be enjoyed, and you cannot go to Japan without trying the Wagyu beef, obviously. Few rules about eating out though. One, everything gets ordered digitally. Even if you're underneath in the railway station, you order digitally. And in my case, that took me a while to get right. Secondly, not to be thrown by the queues of people outside. You can be inside a little ramen restaurant and there'll be 35 people outside waiting for the 10-seater inside. Apparently, this is all things normal. You queue in Japan. The third thing is, no, don't expect to get a normal cup of tea around there. Matcha tea is absolutely everywhere. And the other thing is sweetness. The Japanese people love their sweetness. So if you're into sweet things, there's a lot of things to enjoy.
But it's beautifully tasty. And I just want to taste one of them now. It's a very unusual taste. It's like a grape, but with a sort of pear overtones.
This is like Kit Kat meets Willy Wonka gone bonkers in Japan. I read about this. They have lots of different varieties. This one is green tea. There's a wasabi one. This one. Japanese sucky Kit Kat. Japan is undeniably beautiful. There is so much to see, so much to explore. The cities are incredible, the towns are beautiful, the mountains, the countryside. But that's not, if I look back, what remains topmost in my mind. What remains topmost is the quirkiness of Japan. There is so much about this through a Westerner's eye that I walk away from and think that is quintessential Japan, and you won't get it anywhere else in the world. There's the obvious things like the fact you have to lose your shoes every single time you go into a shrine or a temple or somewhere sacred. There's a not so obvious one where you have to polish your wheels. Several times when we went into hotels, we had to actually drop down on the floor and clean the wheels of our suitcase before we were allowed into the hotel. There's one thing that really amused me, and everywhere we went I would explore this, and that's the toilets. Whether it's a hotel room or a public place, those toilets are state of the art. They babble and sing and light up and do complete valet services, and I've never seen anything like it in my whole life. But the thing that I think I carried away with me the most were the traffic lights, the sound that they make. They have what they call a chirp cuckoo sound. It's actually to help the visually impaired. And they use these sounds everywhere on the traffic lights, but also music playing inside shopping centres to tell you it's opening or closing. There's noise everywhere. The traffic lights sound like birds. And every single city has got a different sort of mixture of the chirp and the cuckoo and the cheep. So you have the bibbidi-bob, or the bob. Each one sounding like a different bird. All part of the charm and the quirkiness of Japan. And if you're into looking for things that are quintessential Japan, there's plenty of that to be seen and enjoyed. So, shoes in place. Now we get to the real thing. Squeaky clean. In Osaka. It's got a real bed, not a futon. Lounge.
Electronic Japanese loos, except this one's lit up. And I guess because I'm in an art exhibition, we've got this going on. Now here I go. See, I'm nowhere near it. And it flips open. This is crazy. It's such a noise.
So noisy. That one's making music.
Even the sweeties sing in Don Quixote. All of this racket is coming out of a popcorn machine.
This must be the Sapporo sparrow. It's different, unique.
We discovered that the Japanese seem to have quite a deep fondness for animals, particularly the domestic animals and particularly dogs, little dogs. Everywhere we went, we spotted dogs not being taken for a walk, as in a dog on a leash, but being taken for a walk in a pram. And when you go and greet these dogs, inevitably they've got bonnets on their heads and little jackets on and absolutely loved by their owners. And I'm not just talking small fluffy ones. We saw some really big English bulldogs being wheeled around the streets of Kyoto. But besides the doggies and the cats that we saw, our own memory is definitely about the snow monkeys. We went into Nagano, which is in the mountainous hinterland of Japan, and the snow monkeys is on the big hit list, and it was worth every single moment of that hike to get to see them. They are extraordinary. The only monkeys of their kind that can survive in the kind of minus temperatures of winter. But thinking back, there are a certain form of deer. It's a sacred deer that you only get in certain parts of Japan. And we met them both times. One was in Nara, the sacred deer of Nara, very, very special. And the other was in Miyajima, and they've got a particularly strong sweet tooth, and they're quite happy to pinch sweets from the shops. But in Nara, you can buy biscuits and give it to them. And the way that they get your attention, because they really want those biscuits, is they open their little mouths, they make this really strange sound, and then they nip. And if it's your bum that happens to be in the way of that nip, so be it with the sacred deer of Nara. And I want to introduce you to Twee, and she's our hostess. Is that the expression you use? Thank you, Twee, thank you. But he's just phoning to give me birthday wishes. That's why we're talking.
Okay, so I started learning the way of tea. So when I was high school student,
I'm going to ask him to say goodbye to us more formally.
来ていただいてありがとうございました。お気をつけてください。
So we're on our Shinkansen going to Tokyo on the day, on the very day that the Boca have won the big world championships. And look who we have sitting next to us. See that flag?
So as long as you arm yourself with Google Translate and you're prepared to jump on any form of first world country transport, then what's stopping you? We're the Geri-antics after all, and we did it by ourselves, and thanks to the kindness of the Japanese people, it really was easy. So if you're thinking of going to Japan, stop thinking, just go. You'll never forget it.
Well, look.
No, that's wrong.
Nope, you are not allowed, I don't think, to go and bang that one. I think the monks might have something to say about it.